This video is in two main parts. The first is a complete lesson cycle on brainstorming designed to be used on the junior high level and up. The second part is a lesson on implementing the brainstormed solution. This video is not designed to replace the teacher, but to be something that the teacher enhances with his or her own personality, knowledge, and unique style. This video has exercises and activities whereby the teacher is asked to pause the video. There will be an image that is designed to enhance the discussion or activity during the pause. The image lasts for several seconds. Upon the conclusion of the activity or discussion, simply restart the video. And now, the first segment, brainstorming. The world desperately needs problems solved, and the people who can solve them with feasible and reasonable solutions are almost always rewarded handsomely and highly sought. One method of solving a problem or opportunity is called brainstorming, and that's just what we're going to help you learn today. For the first part, what you will need are the following: something on which you can write and something with which you can write. First, ponder the following question and then write a short paragraph that explains what you believe is an answer. Not the answer, but an answer. Write your paragraph in such a way that your audience is a young child who has asked you, "What is brainstorming?" Now, pause the video while you first think, and then you write your paragraph. Now that you have pondered and written as if you were answering a question for a youngster who looks up to you, discuss with the class what each of you has written about brainstorming and discover what the group thinks about the topic. Pause now so that you can discuss what is brainstorming. Perhaps what you have discovered is that everyone knows things that you do not, and that the smartest person in the group is the group itself. Perhaps the team came up with something akin to: brainstorming is an organized approach to generating possible solutions to a defined opportunity. There are techniques that will allow a group of diverse thinkers to generate possible solutions. There are guidelines to follow that will help the group formulate many possible solutions to the defined problem. In short, they are: one of the first guidelines is to correctly define the problem or situation. Incorrectly defining the situation will not lead to the solution, as we will soon see. Second, write down as many possible solutions that you can. You can think of creative solutions by asking yourself a series of questions that will help you think more creatively, and we will get to those in just a moment. Third, share your thoughts with the group and be positive about each answer. Respect the person who is speaking by listening. Fourth, keep it positive. Sometimes the craziest ideas lead to the best possible solutions, as we will soon see. Fifth, listen. Really listen while others are talking. Oftentimes, hearing the ideas of others helps you generate even more ideas, so keep your writing instrument handy. Sixth, ask yourself and the group, what more do I or we need to know in order to better understand the situation, problem, or opportunity? Seventh, start to narrow the hundreds of ideas to the top few, but don't discard the ideas that were not used. Oftentimes, they are the perfect solution to a different opportunity. 8. When possible, take a long break and revisit the opportunity and possible solutions with a new and fresh perspective. Sleep on it, in other words. Many problems have been solved by going to lunch. The final stage is not really a brainstorming thing, but an implementation thing. Once the team has come up with a feasible possible solution, the team should brainstorm ways to implement the solution and to measure its success. Additionally, the team should research things that others have tried. There is no sense in reinventing what others may have already invented. This, however, is beyond the scope of this lesson on brainstorming and is covered in another lesson in the last half of this video. Let's kick things off with the first step of correctly defining the opportunity that needs a solution. Correctly defining the situation is the first step. Failing to correctly define the situation means that the team is not solving the real problem. It's like leaning your ladder against the wrong wall. It can be a fantastic ladder, and it takes work to climb it. You will feel like you are making progress, and then when you get to the top, you will realize that you have not solved the right problem. Here are a few examples of problems that were not correctly defined. The solutions that were set in place didn't solve the real problems, and in many cases, they caused new problems, as we will soon see. Caskets were designed with stakes in the lid so that the person whom everyone believed was dead would have a stake driven through the heart to make sure that he or she was really dead. This would mean that they could rest easily knowing that they were not burying anyone who was still alive. You see, people incorrectly stated the problem of, we are burying people who are still alive. And sometimes they dig themselves out of the grave and make their way home. And this was seen as a problem. Driving a stake through the heart certainly is one way to solve the problem of burying people who were still alive. But this is a great example of the problem not being correctly stated. A better definition of the problem is, what is a better way of telling if a person is actually dead? Finding a better way to detect life would certainly reduce or stop people from being buried alive. Another example of a problem that needed a better definition is, how can we treat cancer victims better? The better question is, how do we keep people from getting cancer? Yes, once a person has cancer, there are needs for treatment and therapy, but keeping people from getting cancer is the better, long-term question to be solved. When is the last time that you heard of anyone having polio? 100 years ago, it was one of the big killers, but we found a way to greatly lessen the number of cases of polio, so you just don't hear about it today. Another example is famine. To say that the problem is that people do not have enough food is not correctly stating the real problem. Not having enough food is the symptom to the real problem, and getting food to these people is addressing the symptom and not the real problem. Yes, the right thing to do in the case of famine is to get food to the starving people. But the better question is, how do we keep famine from happening again? What has caused the famine in the first place, and how do we lessen its likelihood? It's best to do the things that keep the house from catching on fire than just responding to fires. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So the first step in brainstorming is to correctly define the problem, situation, or opportunity. The first step in brainstorming is to start with the end in mind, to get on the right path. Where do you want to go with this? Because if you don't know where you want to end up, any road will get you there. To help us see things a bit differently, we will engage in an activity called Notice Something. It works like this. We get into groups of 2, with your teacher being one of the members of a group if needed. You will get together with a person in the class whom you do not know well. The 2 of you will take a walk within the guidelines set forth by your instructor. One of you will stop and say, "Notice something." The other person will stop, look around, and notice something that he or she has never noticed. He or she will then speculate as to what it is and what it could be. When the person who said notice something is satisfied, the 2 will start to walk again. Then the other person will say, "Notice something," and the process starts again. Your team will take about 10 minutes to accomplish this task, and your team will notice as many things as possible in the budgeted time. Your team will then return to the classroom, and each team will give a short report as to what was the most interesting thing that was noticed. Stop the video now and go notice something. In just a few minutes, you will be asked to pause the video and work together to define a problem, situation, or opportunity in your school. This, too, is a brainstorming activity. Each person should jot down a few things that answer some of the following questions. Then, go around the room allowing each person to make his or her best comment or 2. This is not a time to be negative. Be as positive and supportive as you can with each statement. To help the students in your school better learn, grow, and mature, what is the school doing that it just needs to stop doing? What is the school doing that it should be doing more often? And what is the school not doing that it should be doing? Stop the video now and discuss these 3 questions. Now that you've had time to respond to these 3 questions, as a group, discuss and refine to define the single problem, situation, or opportunity that the team wants to brainstorm and attempt to solve. Remember, do not throw away the items that were suggested but not used, as they can be very valuable another time. Don't worry about your idea being silly or insignificant. The best and most important idea ever known was just a single idea in one person's head, and it grew from there. In just a moment, you will pause and discuss the ideas that were generated from the 3 questions. It is important to keep a record of the thoughts and ideas. A good way to do this is to write each thought on a card or Post-it note and put each one up for everyone to see. Now pause and discuss the things that each person wrote regarding these questions. Now that the team has correctly defined the problem, situation, or opportunity that it wants to solve with the brainstorming technique, it will be clearly written for all to see. That is, boldly post for all to see well the opportunity that is seeking a solution. Then, we will move forward with the next step. You will write down as many possible solutions as you can. The next step is the lonely part. The next step is when each person comes up with possible solutions to the defined opportunity with no regard to being practical, legal, moral, ethical, or even possible. This is the wild and crazy phase of brainstorming. In this lonely phase of brainstorming, each person generates and records his or her thoughts. This step can be done while sitting quietly, playing basketball, going on a walk, looking out the window, sleeping, singing, and even showering. Some of the best ideas have come to people while they were in the shower. Once you have collected your suggestions, your team will reassemble and start to discuss them. In this phase of brainstorming, there are no wrong answers. The great philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said, "If people didn't do stupid things, smart things wouldn't happen." Yes, that's correct. Oftentimes play leads to discovery. Stupid things help uncover smart things. Out there somewhere, something really amazing is waiting to be discovered by you, perhaps. The next great thing just might come from your head and your efforts. A few examples of smart things to have come from stupid things are the compass. You know, that thing that always points in the same direction? How in the heck did someone figure that out more than 2,000 years ago? One theory is that a naturally occurring magnetic rock called a lodestone was hung on a long, thin string, and this allowed it to align itself with the Earth's magnetic field. Each lodestone would then always point in the same direction. First, why would anyone hang a rock from the ceiling on a long, thin string? And then, why would anyone notice that each rock always pointed in the same direction? See, stupid things can lead to smart things. Another example is glass. No one is sure how humans invented the glass-making process, but we do know that it was about 6,000 years ago. Campfires of the day were not hot enough to melt sand unless there were salts mixed in with the sand and it was cooked for a long time at that lower temperature. One theory is that guys, and we know how they are, were playing with the campfire and they mixed in salts at the end of the night. Over time, they found hunks of glass in the ashes the next morning when they were looking for a free start for another fire. This is another example of how doing stupid stuff can lead to smart stuff. Another example is gunpowder. It was discovered or invented on accident well over 1,000 years ago. In Chinese, the word gunpowder translates into English as flaming medicine. The birth of gunpowder was quite accidental. It was first invented inadvertently by a medicine man who was attempting to make an elixir of immortality. It was a mixture of fuels and oxidizers and then cooked. It was the cooking process that caused it to blow up. The goal was to make something that would prolong life, and it ended up being something that advanced the technological arms race. But It is also why the Chinese invented fireworks. So again, we see that stupid things can lead to smart things. A few more quick examples of smart things that have come from play or stupid things are the slinky, the composition of the atom, penicillin, chocolate chip cookies, potato chips, the pacemaker, silly putty, the microwave oven, saccharin, artificial sweetener, Scotchgard, cornflakes, inkjet printers, 3D printers, Post-it notes, and X-rays, to name just a few of the common things. It will be left up to you to research these things to see how it is that they came from doing stupid stuff. Let's get back to trying to solve the problem or opportunity that your group developed to make your school a better place to learn, grow, and mature. Some of the questions that you can ask yourself that will help you think more creatively are: what suggestions would get us all fired? What suggestion would embarrass my grandmother? What suggestion would an alien looking down on us make? What suggestion would get us all expelled from school? What is the most costly thing that we could do? What study do we need to do or make of this problem to better understand it? What would a one-eyed dog suggest? Think of someone else who is much different than you in the level of smarts and ask yourself, what would the dumb guy do? What would the smart person do? Next, we will play a game in the classroom. Again, there are no wrong answers. This game, just like Notice Something, will help you think more creatively. Some say to think outside of the box, but you are encouraged to not even acknowledge that there is a box. The game is called What's the Next Right Answer? It goes something like this. Someone in the group will hold up an item and ask, "What is this?" Everyone will say aloud what it is. For example, it's a pencil, and that is correct. But the name of the game is What's the Next Right Answer? Someone might say, it could be used as a weapon, and that would be the next right answer. But what is the next right answer? Someone in the group could say, it could be used to block the door from closing and latching, so it could be a doorstop. And this, too, is another right answer. Then, after everyone has had a chance to give the next right answer, a new item is lofted and the game is afoot again. Doing this with a few items will get you ready to go off on your own and to consider the following questions that will help you come up with possible solutions. In just a moment, the video will be stopped and the team will play What's the Next Right Answer? After the video is paused, but before you start to play the game, stand, look around, find the person whom you know the least well, and approach that person. Extend your hand and lend encouragement that he or she will do well at What's the Next Right Answer? Pause the video and play What's the Next Right Answer? In just a moment, the video will be paused and everyone will come up with possible solutions to the problem that the team defined that it wants to solve to make the school a better place. Everyone will look at these questions and then come up with as many possible solutions as he or she can. Pause now. Okay, you should have a bunch of note cards full of wild and crazy ideas. In this next phase of brainstorming, everyone shares his or her ideas, and the person speaking is respected by everyone else who is listening. It is the moderator's responsibility to keep the conversation moving by not letting it get stuck in a loop, by getting an equal amount of input from everyone, by keeping it positive, and to start to narrow the ideas down to a few for serious discussion. It is very possible at this point that new ideas might be generated and they can be considered by the group. Just write them down on a note card. It is very easy in this phase for the most dominant person to be insistent about his or her idea, and research has proven that the most dominant person is not always the most creative. So this is why it is important for everyone to have a say and for everyone to be positive. Remember, some really smart things have come from really silly ideas. In this phase of brainstorming, it is often good to have a break. Sleep on it or go to lunch. Come back to the idea with a fresh perspective. In this phase, the many or several ideas are narrowed to a few, and then there is much discussion as to which one could be the best option? Which one will solve the defined problem or situation? Which possible solution will use available resources and have the greatest return on investment? Now, pause the video and come up with the best possible solution that you can.